time.
I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed in Cordae right now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Beats, Fams and Debate. Today we're going to be covering Cordae's latest project from a bird's eye view. And I'm joined by three great guests. So we have myself, Jordan.
Alicia.
Idris.
Lexi.
Cool, let's get into it. So myself,
Don't hold back.
I'm gonna give this album a 2.8 to a 3. I'm gonna stick with a 2.8. You know, I think it's a decent project, but I think it's very much a forgettable one.
Yep.
I think it's a project that I was only probably given the time of day because, you know, I wanted to listen to it enough in order for me to actually review it and have a discussion with you lot.
Lol.
But once this you know, episode comes to an end, I'm not gonna revisit it again, you know. And I think I think it's a little sad because
No, guy, continue. Don't hold back. It's fair.
Yeah, tell us how you really feel.
I
Tell
think
us how you
it's
feel about
I think
this
it's
thing.
kind of bad because the thing with Cordae is that if this is like a ticking the box exercise, he ticks all the boxes.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Except one.
okay, we can
get onto
yeah,
that
yeah.
later on,
He
but
ticks
there's
all the
one he doesn't.
boxes, right? He says all the things that you'd want someone to say and does all the things, you know, you'd expect one to do, but there's just something which is just missing, like in his music. I think with him, it's a thing of I don't think he's found himself as an artist, as a person, and I think he's pandering to the perception of, you know, what a real kind of lyricist is or whatnot, instead of really just finding his voice and making a new lane. It really does just
Very
feel
much
like
so.
he is repeating a tried and tested formula, and his music just sounds safe.
Yes.
Even though, you know, he can rap well and has decent beats, it is very much a thing of I've been here before and I know what this feels and tastes like, and I don't really want to come back again.
Yep.
You know. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there
Stale.
and then we can kind of delve into it further. What do you think?
I'm gonna give it a 4.
Oh, wow.
Shocking.
I've never listened to Cordae before, so this is actually a project. So I'm coming with it like from a fresh perspective, I guess, of someone who's never heard him. But I get what you're saying. It's nothing new, but it was kind of versatile in showing that he can spit in different like kind of beats from like sound like East Coast or West Coast. Some of the songs sound like West Coast. So I thought it was really good, and the album was kind of seamless. But he's only 24, so I guess he still has time to like
Develop.
Yeah.
Cordae. So this album, I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Sorry, go on, bro.
The only reason why I don't give it a 2 is because he actually. Because the only reason why I don't give it a 2 is like what you said earlier. He does, you know, if this is a tick box exercise, he ticks a lot of boxes. He ticks all of them. And the only one that I feel he wasn't ticking was soul. I don't think he was soulful enough on this album, or I don't think he was pouring out a lot of himself on it, even though he was doing a lot of stuff that were personal, and that he mentioned about, you know, the death of his homie and the death of his grandmother and all of these things that are supposed to be very personal to you. The way he was talking about it was almost like as a detached, like an emotionless, or kind of like a, it just wasn't feeling like, oh, this is something that's touching you. Like, he's talking about his homie that died in the summer. He's like, I just miss my dog, man. Like, who says that about a friend of theirs that got killed?
Wait,
Like,
so you're criticizing? You're criticizing?
I'm criticizing
When
the
he
fact
shows
that
his trauma.
no, no, I'm
He should have
criticizing
been
the fact
balling on the
that
album. Like,
I'm criticizing the fact that nowhere on his album did he make me feel the emotions that he was supposed
like
to
it was
make.
sincere.
Yeah,
Got you.
that's what I'm criticizing because, like you said, the lyricism is there. He does touch on different subject matters. He talks about both, the wealth, the fame that he's just acquired, as well as the struggle that he's been through. But nothing was captivating enough for me to be like, oh, I believe what you're saying, or I feel the emotions that you're feeling, and that for me, for someone who's putting himself in that strata that he wants to be in as a great rapper, he's doing a lot of pandering, and I think, yeah, at some point, if it was a new thing, it would have been like, oh my days, amazing. But because I've already listened to Cordae before, and I've almost seen him from when he started blowing up to now, I haven't really seen. I've given him enough time to like be a great, and I haven't seen that, and I feel like he's just doing the safe option, and
All the time.
I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed in Cordae right now.
oh, okay.
Why are you laughing like that?
So I actually rate the album a 3.5.
Okay.
And the reason why he gets kind of like an up for me, I guess probably a bit more than y'all, is because I actually did underestimate his craft as well as his character when I was first hearing about Cordae. And I thought he was going to be like another one of those like lollipop rappers and all this kind of stuff. And I thought he was going to be talking about nonsense. And I thought his character would also be a reflection of that. So after hearing some of
was
his...
it because of the YBN affiliation?
A bit, but
It
even...
was the hair, right?
But even...
I was gonna say it's the hair.
even after YBN, like when he had dropped kind of that prefix and was just Cordae, it was again I was kind of thinking, just looking at him, I was like, I don't know what this is about, kind of thing, you know. But yeah, like I said, I had underestimated his character and his craft. So kind of hearing the content that he talks about, there's a lot of relation that I personally feel towards it. So from that perspective, which is very personal to me, I have to rate him up.
Yeah.
But he's definitely not a 5 or a 4 for me on this album because it is mediocre. There isn't anything about this album that is particularly standing out. And actually, towards the latter half of the album, I found myself thinking like, did I finish the album? Did I even finish like the album? I had to go back I genuinely went back several times to be like, no, I listened to that song. No, I listened to, and then I thought, oh shit, like none of the songs stand out.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
some like, I think Westland High in the latter half was like good and like Chronicles and stuff, but no, like very few songs will really stand out. And the truth is as well, I know that they won't age well either, because there's some songs even from YBN, from the YBN album and Lost Boy that I did like. I don't like him so much now.
Yeah.
So, and I know that the same will happen with this album. But yeah, that's my quick summary so far.
So like, obviously, like it seems like we've all like agreed that he can rap well.
Yeah.
Right. And aside from like the soul part of things, like what else do you think is kind of missing from his package? Like, do you think that he's kind of holding back on his message? Do you think he can kind of like double down on his message? Like, what do you think is missing?
He can. Like, I remember in Parables, like, I like Parables a lot, actually. I like that song. But then he's like, I could tell you about the time. And then, like, he tells you about the time I did something off the drain. I could tell you about the time when, I got a deal and I took my brother out of jail kind of thing. And immediately I thought, well, tell us. Immediately that was my first thought. I was like, well, tell us, man. That's what we here for. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep,
that's why you write in pen and paper. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that. I think about like quite a few of his songs where I feel like I kind of get that idea of soulfulness because it seems like a very objective kind of like touch.
I'm going to tell you about this. I'm going to tell you about that. I'm going to tell you about this. He has this line where he's like, "Oh, I got 7 million. Thank you. A shout out for Coca-Cola for the check that they signed." But it just sounds so flat to me. Like, why are you mentioning that? There's no, if you want to brag, there's a better way to brag about a 7 million check, you know?
Are you saying that if you was a rapper, basically you do all these things differently?
Yes,
Oh god.
yes, I will be.
I
I'll be
think
doing it
he-
differently.
I think he just sounds more like a fan of hip hop, which I think is just trying to prove that that you know hip hop very well, and these are like the people you're odaying to, I guess.
And
But
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I feel like he's almost starstruck that he's in like the field of hip hop and is like trying to like continuously like convince people that I can rap. Did you get what I'm saying? But I think there comes to a point where being able to rap isn't good enough.
Isn't good enough.
It's what are you rapping about? Like what is it that you
Yeah.
actually stand for?
Yeah. Like when he came out, the first time I heard about him was when he did his response to J. Cole's 1987, 85. And he had that freestyle where he kind of talks about J. Cole's older perspective being very misjudging of the younger generations and how they're coming in with a new hunger and they're going to change the hip hop and they still love the old stuff, but they're coming in with a new energy. And it was very encouraging. It was very like, oh wow, like, you know, this is a guy, he can rap. So there's no denying on the fact that he can stand on his own. And he's bringing in this new perspective about the younger generations. Yes, they listen to Lil Yachty, to Lil Nas, not Lil Nas all the time, but Lil Yachty, Lil Pump, all of these guys. But it doesn't mean that they're stupid. It doesn't mean that they're a lost generation. Yet, it's been how many years now? And I feel like for all of the knowledge that you claim to have and all of the rapping ability that you have, you should have been somewhere else right now. And I'm disappointed in the fact that he hasn't done more with his talent, with his skill, because you can tell he has a lot of talent. He has a high potential, but he's not taking enough chances. He's not stepping out of his comfort zone to really challenge himself and produce a great body of work. He's doing very formulaic. Oh, this is going to be the thing that the old heads are going to like. This is the thing that the new kids are going to like. This is the thing that people who are in betweens are going to like. And I'm going to just do that, and I'm going to package it, and I'm going to sell it out, and that's it. I feel like he's not really doing something that's going to show who he is and putting himself out there, like bearing his soul in a sense.
Yeah. I heard that. And the reason why I'm laughing is when you say disappointed, like you sound like a father speaking down to a son. That's why I keep on laughing. But I think what you're saying is I 100% agree with what you're saying, and I think the pandering side of things comes in when I see like the Eminem features.
Yeah.
It's like whenever I see
Yeah.
like an Eminem feature these days, it's like it's almost like a novelty act, you know, of
Yeah.
getting this
Cosign.
yeah, this cosign, and having this Eminem cosign means that, oh yeah, like I can rap and I can hang, instead of like looking at it from the perspective of, does this actually add to my album?
Yep.
You know, and I think there is that kind of sense, like going from the first track to the last, that he doesn't really know, right, what he wants to do for himself, but he does know what other people expect of him, and as long as he's able to do that, then he's fine, you know. But I think that in the long term, that's only going to play out to him eventually being forgotten. Because I think as far as Cordae goes, right, I think he has the luxury of being in a time where the standards aren't really that high. You
That's
know,
true.
especially in the generation in which he's coming in,
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of things that he's able to take for granted, right? To where he may not even have to really push himself conceptually too much, seeing that no one else around him is doing that either.
Yeah.
You know, but I guess the only thing he has over anyone else is that he can rap a little bit better, you know?
Yeah.
music is kind of like mass produced now, so it's kind of hard to, I think, for new artists to stick out, because there's such a history now that they try and like redo. instead of being like innovative and new. But it's like, I think new artists now are trying to find what's something new and innovative that I can do that hasn't been done before, which is kind of hard, I guess.
But it doesn't even seem like he's trying.
Yeah, and I think as well, like there's a way of bringing back old hip hop, or there's a way of bringing back the essence of hip hop without necessarily repeating the rapping patterns or repeating the beat patterns or the topic patterns that older generations have done. And I very much think back when Kendrick was coming out, and a lot of the OGs were like, I can see this guy embodying the hip hop spirit without him having to necessarily rap the same way that the OG were rapping. He could do a couple of references here and there, but he wasn't trying to rap for the OG. He was just doing himself, and the OG vibed with it because the essence was there.
Yeah.
Cordae, when he came out, I felt that way. I felt like, oh, this guy is smart. He's well articulated. He's very well spoken in terms of how he can get his point across. And he's a young kid. Because I don't know how old he was when he came out, but he kind of sounded like the generations of the kids who were seen as they're just liking the turn up. They're liking the purple dreads, or like colored dread. Like that generation that we were just like, oh, you guys are wasted. Like you guys are lost. So it was refreshing to see a guy from that generation putting words together and rapping them well on a good beat and having something to say, a message that was attached to it. But like I said, so many years removed, I know Cordae more about his other attributes as opposed to his rapping attributes. I know about the fact that he's boyfriend of Naomi. I know about the fact that he's a really nice guy. I know about the fact that he is like, he's like I want to know about the fact that you tore down a freestyle somewhere, or you have this sick album that people are listening to it over and over again to break down the lyrics in it. You know, I don't want to know the fact that, you know, you're a very cheerful boyfriend when your girlfriend is playing at the Wimbledon or something like that. Like, that's nice, but yeah.
See, I don't know. I actually feel like it is much harder though. Like the standards are much higher and harder to actually be a standout artist, because whilst granted he's not really standing out, he seems a bit average, you know, Cordae in regards to his craft and, you know, his rapping style. But at the same time, how much can he do without seeming gimmicky as well? Like he has to he is young. He's younger than me, and you know, he's still kind of discovering himself. He's still discovering himself musically as well as personally. Mm-hmm. He still has more life to rap about and more albums to cover and more stories. And in this one, and then again with this album in particular, the point of this album was to give a overall general perspective of more than perspectives outside of himself. Yeah. So how much can he really do? What can he really do to stand out that doesn't seem fake and doesn't seem phony and then too gimmicky as well? Like,
be real, be soulful. Like, I feel like he has experiences that he's been through. He thinks about the experiences and he's like, oh, this is something that's going to move the public. Let me write about it. As opposed to having that impulse of, I have something to say because I've been through this and I feel like I need to get this out. He has that he has that like calculated, but not in a good way. He has that like, oh, let me plan this out because I'm expecting this reaction from the public. As an artist that is also new and that's coming up, that I feel embody that essence a lot better. You have somebody like Ray Vaughn, who's probably still underground, but if you listen to his freestyle and you listen to his art, to his EP that's come out, you can hear the hunger in that artist that I don't feel like Cordae carries, and I want Cordae to just be a bit more hungry. Like, he's talking on this album like he's already certified. You're not, man. Like, don't do that to yourself because you're setting yourself up for failure. Like, he's talking about being the greatest. I want someone to tell me that they're the greatest, and I want to believe you, even if I don't believe you. That
if you don't agree, you can respect where it's coming from.
I can respect where it's coming from. But he said he dropped the fact that he's the greatest, and he drops it in such a nonchalant way. Like, don't do that. Like, you're basically, yeah.
That was too much. Yeah, because it's true. It was too much.
Like, how can you call yourself the greatest? You haven't even. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that to him. So
I think by the time he hits, he's got a long while to go and a lot of experiences to have. I feel like. Because again, he's young, and it's like we've heard all these stories before, so that's probably why we're bored. It's like we've heard the struggle, we've heard the come up, people's friends have, you know, passed or whatever, but how can we say it in a way that's more, I guess, innovative or interesting or something we haven't heard before, but also that will come musically, because it's not just about the lyrics, it's about the beats that go along with it.
Well, I will say as a good point to Cordae on this album, he started off with his brother with the Shallows
Shallows,
intro,
sorry.
Shallow,
Intro.
yeah, Shiloh's intro, and then in the middle with the collect call from Shiloh's interlude. So that I liked, because that was really that's obviously mad personal. Like, it's not even him on it, especially with the interlude with the whole, would you like to accept the collect call? So and to be fair, I think that even probably has been done before, where rapper has obviously done that whole collect call thing. But again, you know, I guess he's trying. I guess like because I'm aware that he's aware of how other people consider him to be quite average. So it's like you can definitely see him trying to prove people wrong in that aspect, but at the same time he is still following the same rapper's formula that has been already followed, repeated, revised, and do you know what I mean, and done over and over again.
I think it's interesting, though, and speaking to what you just said, and also what you said about him being the greatest rapper, I think the commonality between all the greatest rappers is I guess the main one is that they can all rap, well, rap good, rap to a really good standard, that they can rap to a really good standard. But besides just being able to rap well, they all had like an archetype that characterized who they are, and that archetype is essentially what you know, their raps, you know, fed through. And it's that archetype that people actually are able to engage with, not just from a musical standpoint, but also from an emotional standpoint as well. Like, you know, if we look at someone like Eminem Eminem, for example, you know, he's the white trailer park trash kids, you know, who can rap as good as anyone. Look at Jay-Z, you know, I'm not a rapper, I'm just a hustler that knows how to rap. You know,
Nas is the
street disciple. Did you get
watching thing from the window, but being able to like convey the crowded stories in the most poetic ways? Kendrick being that lost kid in a city that's mad, but he's trying to be a good kid. Like all of these guys, and then Drake being like this Toronto out that thinks, you know, he owns the world or whatever. J. Cole.
Yeah,
you're right.
The common thread between all those rappers is that Eminem needed Dr. Dre to be innovated, otherwise he would just be a great white rapper.
But what I'm saying, regardless of him needing Dr. Dre or not, he still had something alongside being able to rap that people were then able to engage with, right? So I guess
Cordae's character could have been that, although I'm from these generations of people who have been almost dismissed as having killed hip hop, or not having killed hip hop, but like
you're killing me today, man.
Because no, literally looking at the generation of his year group, how many of them are lyricists? We've all dismissed the fact that we're no longer going to get lyricists from hip hop, because obviously they grew up on a different sound. So we don't have high hope for his generation. His trope could have been like, I'm this generation. I can still be down with them, but I can still rap. So don't give up on us. Basically, he could have used that.
So he's like the last hope.
He could have been the last, you know, flag bearer before the next generation can get their senses.
Can end it for sure.
Yeah, he kind of does. He kind of has that feel to me. And another, I guess, archetype, I think, that I kind of see, at least that I personally see him as that kind of kid that comes from the hood, or has problems, like hood problems, but they're not hood themselves, or like they're not like, you know, that like typical like, or what is seen anywhere as that typical kind of gangster like person, but somebody who is still dealing with a lot of problems, you know, coming from certain neighborhoods and stuff. And you know what? I didn't even know he was from North Carolina as well. So he's
J. Cole's neighbor, like
that's but then that's kind of good though, coming from the South and being able to rap and be versatile, like on different West Coast beats and East Coast beats. Like he actually isn't awful at that, you know. And I think I kind of have to give him a little bit of credit for that. As well as, like I said, not necessarily being somebody who exactly, has probably been shot 9 times, but somebody who has probably experienced or seen something like that, or seen trouble go on, and then able to, okay, yeah, how I'm going to pull out of this, or how am I going to be able to spin this in a better way, or spin this in a better form and stuff. So
Yeah.
I have to give some
And
credit for that.
The fact that you actually mentioned J. Cole is a good point because
No, you did. You did. Yeah, you did.
Oh,
I say he's from North Carolina. And then,
in reference to what you.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
But J. Cole is almost what Cordae could become if he was a bit more, if he applied himself a bit more. Whereas he has the potential to be great. Obviously, in my book, J. Cole is not the greatest. He can still do so much more. But I feel like Cordae could get to that level. But I feel like he's not trying hard enough. Because J. Cole has had some moment of vulnerability where he's been able to bear himself out. Even though people will call his rapping bland or whatever, like J. Cole still touches a lot of people because he comes across as, I'm being honest right here and I'm just telling you what's on my heart. Whether you like it or not, that's not me. That's not my problem.
I think that's a really good point. I think, do you know what, even kind of like hearing you say that, I'm just kind of thinking back to all the albums I've listened to him, like his debut and this one, and there does seem to be like quite a strong emotional detachment from it.
Yeah.
It's a thing of like, okay, that sounds cool, that sounds good, but I don't really feel really feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess like on that point then, like is that really something that he should even look to do if that isn't in him?
I feel like he's able to do it. I can see him being able to be that vulnerable and that authentic and still say what he just said in this album, but with a different energy on the mic, and people will relate to it, they will connect to it. Because what he said was very sad. Like, I was like, raw, like, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm feeling like, damn, that's traumatic. But the way you're delivering it, or the way you've placed your words, it doesn't feel like either you're realizing that it's not traumatic enough, or it's traumatic, but you don't want to show that you're that devastated by it.
Or maybe he's just desensitized.
Or maybe he's just desensitized.
If he is that, then I feel like he should play into that.
He should play into that.
Yeah.
Like, take more drugs.
Whoa.
Like, cover drug addict.
Okay, I'm not condoning drug taking. But what I'm trying to say is that
I'm done.
those who are desensitized by the violence around them or the trauma that they experience, they use substances to numb their feelings so that when they're talking about it, it very much comes from a detached place. And you can understand that because you can see that they're drugged out. Cordae doesn't present himself as a drugged out rapper. So how can you be so desensitized about things that's supposed to make you feel a certain type of way if you don't have drugs to use as an excuse? Like, be a bit more emotional about these things that you're sharing.
I think it's because he's quite a thinker. It seems like Cordae is somebody that he does write from his head more than he does from his heart. You know?
Yeah.
So like being the kind of, and I think maybe even in his circle, he's known as the smart, the nerdy guy, and like the intellectual. So I'm just thinking about it from that perspective. He's probably really is thinking he's touching in a way that's true and real by using certain metaphors and, trying to paint a picture of, the certain scene and stuff. But, and the thing of it is, I know you was like, okay, yeah, he's not trying hard enough, but I bet you from his mind, he's like, I'm trying a lot. I'm trying a lot. So but you know what? In saying that though, I kind of relate to that thing of being so much of the thinker that you do desensitize, or you push yourself back from the feeling so much that people are not actually feeling the expression of what it is you're trying to articulate. So I think as he does grow and he reviews his own projects, he'll be able to be like, and then continue writing as well. And the more he experiences, the more he feels, the more he grows, he'll start being a bit more probably expressive and able to pry himself open.
And it's very interesting what you said there actually about him probably being seen as like the smartest guy in his group or whatnot. And people kind of seeing him as a nerd or whatnot, because there is kind of like a sense of him writing writing on behalf of other people's experiences.
Yeah.
I think, which is what may even
he does.
contribute to, I guess, that element of, or lack thereof, of like emotional kind of input into the stories in which he's presenting. You know, but funnily enough, as dismissive as I've been of Cordae, I actually went to a concert of his 2 or 3 years ago, right, off the back of his debut album.
Yeah.
I didn't
Of Lost Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't purchase the ticket myself. It was given to me for free. But on that note though, like well, on that note though, on that note though, I was amazed by how much people actually turned out for him in London, and like how invested they were in him. And like when I went there, I was, and I'm not really that old by any means, but when I went there, I was definitely one of the older people there.
Yeah.
Like you could immediately see that his demographic is a lot younger than anyone really sitting in this room. So I guess my question around that is it a thing where we're being too hard on Cordae because we're already kind of numb to the culture as far as the music that's been produced by it, and because of that we can't really see him as freshly as maybe someone
Younger
who's just
people.
coming into that's coming into it can.
Yeah, I grew up on deep hip hop because I got older brothers who are like in their 30s, whatever. So it's kind of easy to be harsh on the new generation, but to the younger generation, these people who they're looking up to.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily for us, it's for, because we've heard these stories like a million times over. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we've heard that before, but for the younger generation, these are like, oh, I've never heard someone say this before, because they're not listening to like hip hop from like the 90s or noughties or whatever. So yeah, I think we have to give them kind of, it could be harsh because it's like we're still like the gatekeepers of the new generation, like, yeah, that person's good, but also like give them a little bit of slack, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what has been feeding him so far. The fact that he's one of the only one in this generation that does this kind of music. And again, the new generation gets so much flack for being disconnected from true hip hop that they are harking on anything that resemble hip hop. So of course they're going to flock to Cordae because he's the only one of their group that does that kind of music. That's why I believe he needs to just not try harder, but I believe he just needs to be more authentic so that these kids, when they go to him 10 years from now, they have a sense of, oh, I was listening to like real hip hop. I wasn't listening to the hip hop that fit the descriptions on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm listening to something that it touches the soul, because hip hop is more about rhyme and rhythm. It's really about sending a message that touches the soul. That's why I like about hip hop. And it could be a southern beat, it could be a East Coast beat, a West Coast beat, Chicago beat, anything. As long as it's connecting with the masses, that's what is important. So maybe he's connecting with the younger audience in the way that he's doing it. Maybe it's not just touching me. I'm happy to be like, I'm now an old head. But as opposed to when I listen to him, I don't feel that connection. I don't feel that the soul of hip hop is necessarily conveyed in his
music.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Lexi?
No, I think that's quite true, to be fair. I know with Cordae's intentions are to shift kind of like a cultural movement and shift like a behavior thing. Because I watched he did like a documentary from a bird's eye view, like a little mini webisode kind of thing. And he really did talk a lot about him wanting to have more than just a hit, him wanting to actually change the whole culture of behavior and shift into a new perspective. So I respected that. I respected his intentions of actually wanting to do that, because not a lot of young, especially young rappers do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, intentions in doing it is completely different things as well at the same time. And I do think Cordae still has the potential to possibly reach that, but it is going to take it is going to take him prying himself open. Because the thing of it is, I don't even think it's just about him growing, because he has the stories there. He has the certain experiences of having his brother in jail, having, certain family members, running around doing wild stuff, and losing a friend and everything as well. So he has the stories there, but he needs to be more detailed in actually expressing how it's affected him. So and especially because when I listened to him, I think it was on Sinister, right? And I thought, oh, he sounds like, he wants to be a little bit poetic, which is hip hop,
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's a very hip hop flow. You can tell he's heavily influenced by so many of great hip hop artists, but he's not there yet. But he is genuinely, I can sense that he is genuinely trying to reach there. So that is, yeah.
Do you think that he's from what you may know? Do you think like he is like the closest person from his generation to potentially reach that status of one of the greats?
When you say generations, I'm a bit conflicted
Yes.
because I'm thinking, is it age range or is it the time that they became in the mainstream?
That's a good point. I think maybe a little bit of both. I'm going to sound even more vague, but
Okay.
all I know is that Cordae isn't a part of my generation. He isn't a part of the generation that Kendrick's come from. I'll say he's more so coming in the generation after that.
Yeah,
So
because
2020.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's the only one. I wouldn't say he's he's probably one of the few ones, but it's definitely not just
him.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
definitely not
do you think that then him even being put in consideration as then being one of the few is a testament to how poor the next this current generation
be real, yeah. It's not as well. It's not as well staffed as we want it to be.
But there's also a certain type that people are gonna like, these labels and companies that are gonna mass produce because
Yeah.
they see what's a hit on TikTok or whatever. So it's kind of hard to be. Whereas the 90s, it was so new, and even the noughties, there's so much you could do. So now it's like, what do we do now? Because these labels are just like, oh, let's make a TikTok hit or whatever. But I know so many rappers who like are underground who are incredible, but they don't
Phenomenal.
get
Yeah.
they don't get the numbers. So I think
Exactly.
music now is more to personal taste rather than like, you can tap into a world of music and not know other artists. Like there's loads of artists I know that you guys don't necessarily listen to, or because it's not really radio based anymore.
Yeah.
It's more
Mhm.
like YouTube and social media. So I think we're in a completely different time for music and fan bases, really.
Mm-hmm.
got you.
Yeah.
So like the breeding grounds are completely different now then. And I
Yeah.
guess also the fact that the barriers to entry is seen that it's quite low.
So low.
Anyone and everyone can make music now.
Yeah.
So I guess like if we kind of look at just kind of like keep on this topic, like if we kind of like look at Cordae then, right, and then speak into the fact that he may be seen as one of the GOATs as far as this current generation is concerned, right, from those of a younger generation, of course,
I don't even think he's the GOAT of his younger generation.
or maybe
Yeah.
considered in
okay,
the running,
consider-
in the
okay,
running,
okay, yeah.
in
He's
the running.
contention of greatest of this of his generation.
Yeah. Like, what other rappers then would you think that they may be comparing him to as being like the next of?
Probably J. Cole.
Yeah, I
J.
was
Cole.
gonna say I heard that a lot of people were comparing him to J. Cole. I'm trying to figure out why. Like honestly, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I don't see, like, I get that. I mean, like, he obviously raps quite intellectually, but I don't see the connection or the huge similarity between him and J. Cole. I don't think Cordae is like going to be the next J.
I think
Cole.
it's just that, in terms of that, he just raps intellectually, and that's about it.
He
really.
raps
There's not-
intellectually. He's from North Carolina. He has had this moment of pandering. Well, J. Cole has had this moment of pandering. This guy's in his pandering phase. He also has that sense of not being very sure of who he is. Obviously, J. Cole is much more ahead in that, where he's solidifying his persona and kind of cutting his own lane. He's done a good job at it. Cordae is still in that phase where he really doesn't know where he fits in. So that kind of loss of direction and not knowing where you fit in hip hop is very similar to J. Cole. And also the fact that he blew up because he responded to J. Cole. I just feel like there's a lot of correlation between the two, a lot of connection between the two for that not to be made obvious by people saying that, oh, you remind me of a J. Cole person. But there was one song, I think it's the third or second or third song, where he was very much rapping like Kendrick. And I heard that and I was like, boy.
Or was that the Want From Me?
Yeah,
song?
like he very much sounded like Kendrick there, and I was like, damn, Logic's done that, and where's Logic now? You know, like don't do that to yourself. Just
I think we'll round it up there on that note. Is there like any kind of like final thoughts before we close up for? Good?
I just want to say to Cordae, I like Cordae. I like him as a person.
Why don't you look at
yeah,
him in the
Cordae,
camera?
I like you as a
Look
person.
at him in the camera.
Oh yeah, that one. I like Cordae as a person. I've listened to some of his interviews. I know that he's very much, his heart is in the community. He wants to do great stuff. He has a lot of goodwill. I really want him to just stop trying to please people. Just do yourself, and it's gonna work out because your heart is gonna be in it. Stop trying to pander. That's
Just pander to Idris.
Make daddy proud. Anyone else?
No, not really. To be fair.
Okay, good.
Last words.
I don't think anything could really top that. Anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. Okay, cool. I guess we can draw that to a close then. As always, thank you all for coming through. That was, great discussion as always. And thank you for tuning in. As always, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Peace.
What?
Thank you. Bye. Peace.
Bye.